Okay, here we go. We have private investigator Scott Ross, who was involved with cases with Michael Jackson, Bill Cosby, Suge Knight, Chris Brown, and a host of others. Definitely an honor to sit down with you. Welcome to Vlad TV.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's your first time here. Let's start in the beginning.
Okay.
So what made you get into private investigation?
Oh, interesting. My intention was to become a police officer when I was a kid. I was always into mischief. I always pushed the envelope, but I never crossed that line. And unfortunately, I'm at that age. I graduated high school in 1974. The Vietnam War ended in 1973, so veterans were getting 10 points. You know, when I got out of school, there was just veterans getting hired on to local law enforcement. And when I decided to go to college, and was studying at the time, it was called Administration of Justice. It's not like today where it's all criminology, criminal justice, they have whatever, but police science, as it was called. And when I started studying police science at the time, the next time I tried to reapply when there were jobs available, in 1977, 78, there was a huge women's movement that was going on in the law enforcement world. That bred in 78, 79, that sort of morphed into what we called the Oompa Loompa movement. There was a discriminatory lawsuit that was filed against the LAPD, if I remember correctly. Men had to be 5'10", women could be 5'5". So there was this movement by these people, a lawsuit filed that if women can be 5'5", we get to be 5'5". So then the LAPD sort of took off on this. Now we have to hire shorter people. And I met up with a gentleman who was a retired U.S. Marshal, very nice man, Angelo Canzaneri. He was dying of leukemia. And he was looking for somebody to basically help out, take over. You know, when you do this for a period of time, you develop a relationship with your clients. And that was basically it. He was at that point, he had left the U.S. Marshals. He was a private investigator. And I started working for Canzaneri.
Okay. And I guess in 86, you started Scott Ross Private Investigations.
Yes. Chick Angelo passed away in 82. And I went out on my own. I left where he was and went out on my own in 1986 with a guy named Ted Gunderson, who at the time, Ted was the retired SAC, special agent in charge of the Los Angeles FBI office. And I had known Ted, and I had worked with Ted. And, you know, he was one of those people so high up that food chain that if he wanted something done, he would write something down and here, you do this. And so I became the person that you do this kind of thing. So I started working with Ted then, in 1986.
And since that time, you actually handled over 25,000 criminal and civil cases.
Yeah, easily.
Crazy.
Much, 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 much more criminal cases than civil. I really don't do a whole lot of civil. Well, it's not. I mean, you're looking at over 40 years. Mm-hmm. So 25,000 over 40 years. I mean, it sounds like a monster number, but again, once you span it out, it's not that much.
Well, explain to everyone what a private investigator is, because we all watch the movies, and you have this picture of this guy who's sneaking around and gathering information. But explain to everyone what exactly your job is on a basic level.
Well, there are private investigators that follow people. I don't do that. I do criminal defense, strictly criminal defense. Again, I will get involved in civil cases depending on what they are. But in my particular case, my position has always been I police the police. So somebody gets charged with a crime, you get arrested. Well, that's not the process. You get arrested first, you get charged. The police hand over the discovery. It's funny, you see these statistical statistics of a person getting convicted by the feds as opposed to getting convicted by local law enforcement. And the issue being is like right now, you see it with either Giuliani or Matt Gaetz, if you will. you see the feds investigate their case first, and then they arrest. Where local law enforcement, first responders type, go out, they show up at a crime scene, as it were, they arrest the individual, and then they do the investigation. So sometimes, either based on the expediency of the investigation, the police make mistakes. Sometimes they're just plain wrong. People are wrong. I've been wrong. I couldn't tell you how many times. But the point is, so what I'm doing, my theory or my belief is that my job is to police the police and make sure that the police do what they're supposed to do and follow the proper procedures, that they're not out breaking the law.
Well, the fact that you handle criminal cases on the defense side most of the time.
All the time.
All the time.
I don't do any work for the prosecution.
Got it. Is there ever a point where you're asked to represent someone, or not really represent someone, but work with someone, that the crime they did was so atrocious that you just don't want any piece of it?
Animal cases I won't get involved with.
Animal cases?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like killing a dog?
Animal cruelty or something like that, I won't have anything to do with. I like animals more than I like people. You want to, I had a case, 3 separate trials with this gentleman who was accused of throwing his 4-year-old daughter off a cliff. You want to throw your daughter off a cliff? I'll work with you. You want to kick your dog? Find somebody else.
Okay, gotcha.
Sorry.